as a like civilian and like not rich person, like a regular person, like everybody else, it is so hard to find information on fusion that is not a scam or like trying to take your money, and it's just bizarre. It seems like a casino or like a black hole of money, and like they have the technology and it's ready, but they just keep on taking people's money. And they come out and they're like, oh, we need you to invest, we need you to do this or that, but they'll never actually put it out there. Hey, welcome to Inspired Earth. I hope that you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I've got some stuff about the comet coming through the solar system, the 3I Atlas comet, as well as some news about fusion. And then we're going to have a rescue. So let's get started with this strange comet going through the solar system. WION News, which is like Indian, says Jupiter's strong gravitational force will exert such a push on 3I Atlas that it will be moved out of its trajectory as it makes its way out of our solar system. This one last striking encounter will happen around March 16th, 2026. A new preprint paper tried to understand the path the interstellar comet will take while leaving, where its header, and the possible path that it brought it here. The researchers studied the long-term orbital integration of 500 statistical clones of Comet 3I for hundreds of years in the past and future, and found that it's probably coming from the Sagittarius constellation and going towards the Gemini constellation. But they're not sure yet. And Dr. Avi Loeb had released a blog post on Medium saying, in other words, and this is just a segment of it after he talked about some math. In other words, the non-gravitational acceleration introduced a small course correction of exactly the magnitude needed to bring the minimum distance of 3I Atlas from Jupiter to the value of Jupiter's Hill radius. 3I Atlas would have missed the edge of the Hill sphere otherwise. This suggests that the level of non-gravitational acceleration was finely tuned to result in the Hill radius and bring 3I Atlas exactly to the radius of Jupiter's gravitational influence. So he was suggesting this 5 days ago. He then went on to continue 15 hours ago. If the rare coincidence between the perigove distance of 3I Atlas and the Hill radius will materialize, it might flag a technological signature. In that case, 3I Atlas could release technological devices as artificial satellites of Jupiter, potentially at Jupiter's Lagrange points, L1 and L2, on the Hill sphere, where orbital corrections and fuel requirements are minimal. Within the diameter of Jupiter's orbit around the Sun, the coincidence between the perigove distance and the Hill radius has a statistical likelihood of smaller than 0.00004, which is pretty fascinating. So I'll talk about this some more another time, but I just wanted to put this out there for people to be thinking about. And isn't it strange that whenever we were doing the laser internet story, I think that was literally the first podcast episode I ever did, was on them shooting internet to Jupiter and playing Netflix and cat videos, and they had like an amazing bandwidth. Isn't it kind of interesting that they're saying that Avi Loeb here is saying that like there might be something about Jupiter that this Three Eye Atlas might be interested in, and that we were also beaming our internet to that region of space. It seems like kind of a big coincidence to me personally. But so let's move on to fusion, fusion power, which is like putting atoms together rather than splitting atoms for nuclear energy. Everett-based Helion breaks ground on world's first fusion power plant. This was July 30th, 2025, by KUOW. I guess it's local Washington news. On the banks of Columbia River in the small town of Malaga, Washington, Everett-based Helion has broken ground on what it says is the first fusion power plant. Helion, a nuclear fusion startup backed by big tech, said the facility is prepared to begin delivering electricity generated by nuclear fusion by 2028, and Microsoft has already purchased all of it. Isn't it interesting that we had the small startup of the individual guy who had like the car accident, and that's how he was like inspired to like find this stuff, or that was like part of his journey, and doesn't look like Department of Energy is playing ball with him or his company. But then we have Sam Altman and all these crazy people, and Microsoft, all these like evil people really that are in charge of fusion, and they're just getting to go buck wild with this sort of technology. It's very interesting how like the layman person or the non like ordained by the rich don't get to have any sort of power or electricity or technology, and they'll just like cut you out of it. And that's something that with fusion that's frustrating to me, is that for all the rest of us, fusion power is like a gimmick or a snake oil salesman, or they're like always trying to take your money, trying to like have all these investment opportunities, and it feels like a casino, and that it's predatory. It's very, very predatory. And I'll talk about that another time, but I just wanted to point that out, that it's like, as far as for all everyday people, it's very, very predatory, coming after us for our money and the way, like, what we're allowed to know about this stuff. And yeah, we'll talk about that another time, but and elaborate on the snake oil aspect of it in a different article that's very long. I spent 45 minutes recording it and didn't finish, and so yeah, that's why I tried to do this one a little shorter. But so yeah, I'm like halfway through a different one, but I just wanted to point this out, that it's crazy. Big tech can do fusion, but regular people can't. And it's also interesting that it goes to like a banking aspect, which we've kind of already talked about, of these giant investors picking between loans and like the returns on the loans, and that's what this is all about, and them playing all these games like that. So Helion chose Central Washington for the plant because of the cluster of data centers that will call the region home. It's become a hotspot for the massive server farms that underpin everything we do online because of an abundant, cheap hydropower supplied by the Columbia River dams. And as I'm saying this, also remind yourself the fact that Peter Thiel just sold off his NVIDIA stock, I think maybe Meta stock, and like all these other people are thinking of selling off their stocks. So we're like looking at a possible AI bubble, bigger than the dot-com burst, bigger than any of the other depressions or recessions that we've had. They're predicting this massive bubble to pop with artificial intelligence. And I feel like this is part of them trying to keep that bubble from coming down, is by like dripping fusion out to inflate it even further. Because they evaluated fusion even bigger than AI. So anybody like way, way bigger than AI. Like this other article that I'm reading, we'll talk about it, but it's like if you were to add up AI and the internet and all of these other things, like, all added together, and like cars even, like, they added like all of the major industries in the world, and none of it added up to what fusion is valuated at. So I think that it's gonna, this AI fusion bubble speculation that's going on right now nationally has to do with fusion as well, but not as many people know that. But as the artificial intelligence boom drives unprecedented demand for even larger, more energy-hungry data centers, new sources of power are needed. The tech industry is pinning its hopes on fusion, which promises to be cleaner and cheaper than traditional nuclear power. Fusion works by extremely high heat and pressure to fuse nuclei, which is the same process that happens on our sun, said Helion CEO David Kirtley. This is the first time that people are talking about and now demonstrating that you can do fusion in a way that is commercially relevant for electricity that is low cost, that is efficient, and that is reliable. That's what we're showing, and that's what we're building right now. I mean, I already read a different company that did it first, but, you know, they're not part of big tech, so they didn't get selected. Part of the Department of Defense, aka Department of War, and all these people had like a big sell-off of grants for who got contracts on all these nuclear facilities. And yeah, it's like a revolving door of nepotism. Like, you can only get the contract if you know somebody inside. They're not willing to let like people in, really. It's very, very rare. It's like a secret society that controls our electricity, if you really think about it. That's what I'm describing. Like, people might not want to describe it like that. It might make them uncomfortable, but it is basically what we're talking about. And you could ask, who was it that was killed? Silkwood. Was it Karen Silkwood? That was killed by the energy energy companies for exposing, like, that the nuclear techniques at the time were not safe. And she was a fellow Texan. So, and I think that goes real deep, but that just goes to show how big this energy cabal secret society that has all of this technology locked up in the Department of Energy with all sorts of other technologies, that's how dirty these people are and their behavior, that they're willing to just kill whistleblowers. Helion is leasing land from the Chelan County Public Utilities District as part of its Rock Island Dam property. The location is just up the road from a new data center Microsoft is in the process of building, and an old Alcoa aluminum plant that's currently being dismantled. It's a stark example of industries of the future moving into a small town, filling the void left behind manufacturing, though neither Helion nor the data center will employ as many people as the old plant did. Helion expects to have about 10 to 50 full-time employees. Its focus is building a scalable, renewable power source to meet growing energy needs and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Our goal is to generate power at as low as a cost as possible. That's really interesting. Now that's a good, or a big statement. We'll hold them to that. That's very interesting. I think that said a lot. And we'll have to connect more dots about that. So this is from Reuters, again, still in the same thing. Helion Energy, a startup backed by OpenAI Sam Altman and SoftBank's venture capital arm, has started construction. So this is who's funding it. This is what I was saying, that like it has to do with banking and big AI, and Sam Altman's not a good guy. And that's who's in charge of this. That's who gets access to fusion. And they've had it locked away for years, and now all of a sudden they're letting it leak out. And it's right as the AI bubble's about to pop. I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence. It's linked together somehow. And people will eventually figure it out. So they're build a nuclear fusion power plant that will supply Microsoft. And remember, Microsoft is also getting the 3 Mile Island reactor, where they had the like American Chernobyl type event, or near, not as bad, but like it could have been. And that they're going to turn it back on for Microsoft. Lovely, right? And it says that the startup has to secure final permits from Washington government, and I think they already have by now. I'm not 100%, but it says that they're going to sell power to Microsoft by 2028. The deal was struck in 2023, and this is what Reuters says. But despite billions of dollars investment, scientists and engineers still have not figured out a way to reliably generate more energy than fusion than it takes to create and sustain the reaction, which I'm pretty sure that we had done that like 10, 15 years ago, like publicly. So that's kind of interesting. Helion is still working on how to do that with its current prototype called Polaris, which is housed in Everett, Washington, where it plans to build components for the machine to be built at Malaga called Orion. Orion will connect to Washington's primary power delivery networks. David Kirtley, Helion's co-founder and CEO, told Reuters. Will actually be able to connect to the exact same grid just upstream of the Microsoft data center. Microsoft has for years said that nuclear energy should be part of a mix of carbon-free energy sources, and has also signed power purchase agreements for conventional fission-based nuclear power. Fusion is the longer-term bet. Melanie Nakagawa, Microsoft Chief Sustainability Officer. Over the last 3-4 years, you've been seeing across the fusion space different types of milestones being met by other companies and peers, Helion included. There's a lot of optimism that this could be the moment that fusion actually comes forward within the decade, or near this decade. And I'll put this in another episode, but the Senate House Select Committee, or one of those like select committees on energy, had an open meeting where they talked for like 3 hours, and like one of the first things they did was they came out and they jokingly said, oh yeah, every 10 years they say fusion's gonna come out, and like we just keep on putting money in and nothing happens, and they all just started laughing. Oh ho 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 ho. And I don't know, I know that the DOE has had this technology for longer than they're saying publicly. Do the people in the Energy Select Committee know about what is hidden behind DOE's stuff? I'm not sure. But the fact that they were like making it a joke, it almost seemed like they were laughing at us. And they were just like, yeah, we take their money for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. We'll just take their money, and we're not going to release it until we're ready. And I don't know, like the thing was just kind of creepy. Like I haven't watched the full thing, but just from the first 5 minutes I saw, it was bizarre. So it's also strange that we have these energy select committees openly talking about the release of fusion right now. And that says a lot too. So we're gonna need to go back and look into that as well. I haven't watched it, so I don't know what they say other than the first 5 minutes. But I watched that and had to pause it, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna have to pay attention to this and actually watch it. So I haven't played a rescue in a while, so I'm gonna do that. A teen has been missing for 3 days and needed a miracle. A dog came to the rescue. So we'll listen to this real quick and end it out here.
Just hours ago, a St. Francis County teen had the chance to thank the canine who saved his life. 14-year-old Cody Trenkle spent more than 3 days trapped in a ravine this summer before a corrections dog named Daryl tracked him down.
Today, Cody got to meet his hero. 5 on Your Side's Megan Kernan brings us this exclusive story from Farmington.
Hi, buddy.
A reunion, more than a month in the making. 14-year-old Cody Trenkle finally meeting K9 Daryl, the four-legged hero whose nose led rescuers straight to him.
I got to meet the dog that saved my life.
Just 4 weeks ago, Cody was fighting for his life. On July 27th, after a skateboarding accident, he tumbled 240 feet into a ravine near his home by Goose Creek Lake. For nearly 80 hours, Cody's family and volunteers searched for him.
I've been told that if I had to spend a couple more hours down there, I wouldn't have made it.
Then, the 6-year-old bloodhound from the Farmington Correctional Center was given a pair of Cody's shoes. Within 20 minutes, he put that well-bred nose to work, tracking the scent straight to Cody, lying in a foot of water, badly injured but alive.
Because of him, 20 minutes, man, I'm impressed.
Seeing Cody get to meet him is pretty amazing.
These canines go through years of training to do exactly what Daryl did the day Cody was rescued. Track scents through water, woods, and steep terrain. It's that training that turned a search into a life-saving mission.
20 minutes on a 3-day-old track, that's almost like unheard of. As a parent myself and 14-year-old, sorry, a little emotional. So this is best case scenario because he was found still alive.
I had put all my faith knowing that Daryl was going to find Cody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bubba's.
Cody spent 11 days in a coma, a month in the ICU, and is still in rehab. But today, he's back at school and a little closer to being a kid again.
Just got to get the head healed, and then I'm Cody again.
Reporting in Farmington, Megan Kernan, 5 on your side.
Wow. That is incredible. Definitely a miracle. So, yeah, plans. I'm going to finish up that long episode on Fusion on a different company. And I guess I can talk just a little bit about that in that as a civilian and not rich person, like a regular person like everybody else, it is so hard to find information on Fusion that is not a scam or trying to take your money, and it's just bizarre. It seems like a casino or a black hole of money, and they have the technology and it's ready, but they just keep on taking people's money, and they come out and they're like, oh, we need you to invest, we need you to do this or that, but they'll never actually put it out there. I don't know, it's just extremely frustrating for me to see all of these different fusion companies all coming up at once, and we're still left in the dark as a public. They're still trying to take our money, and we have Microsoft and OpenAI and Sam Altman and banks building fusion power plants, but they still want our money. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's so frustrating. But I am looking forward to making some more stuff on that, and I think it's going to be very interesting and enlightening. I also have some surprises coming soon, so yeah, stick around and be looking for more stuff. Super busy, but we'll keep on trying to make stuff, especially shorter ones like this are a lot easier to put out. I tried to make the other one shorter, and I didn't realize that it was going to turn into a whole big thing, but all right. Hope you guys enjoy and be safe out there, safe travels, and I'll be making some more stuff next week. Adios.